here's Brody Brazil.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to Nashville, Tennessee, home of baseball's winter meetings here in 2023. Another look at Broadway, and where is everybody once again? I know you're thinking, I should be out there. I should be living it up. I should be having a good time, but where is everybody else? It is a Monday night. It's almost 10:30 as I'm recording this, but looking a little slow on Broadway. But obviously, I'm not there. I'm back here in the hotel. The Opryland Resort is still tremendous. I know I talked about this in yesterday's video too, but I got to see it during daylight hours today. So fantastic, so magnificent, so much attention to detail. They've got it all decorated up for the holidays, and you could literally get lost here, even under sunlight and even completely sober, if that makes sense. There's a bunch of atrium areas, one leads to the next, and staircases and rivers and walkways and meandering paths. I mean, this is just such a cool place to visit. Quite honestly, I don't even know if I'm going to leave the premises for my entire trip here. It is that awesome. I don't know if I need to. Anyway, what I'm here to do is to recap two pieces that I filed at NBCSportsCalifornia.com, which I hope you do visit and check these out individually. There's some corresponding videos that go with them, so I do want you to check those out. I also want you to stay tuned to that site as future developments happen and the rest of my coverage here from winter meetings and beyond. Whatever the A's do or don't do in this offseason, it will be covered at NBCSportsCalifornia.com. Two pieces, different topics, obviously different people involved, but kind of a similar theme with both of them, and that is the difficulties now of potential relocation, not final relocation, not shovels in the ground, but so much uncertainty that's now kind of finding its way to important people with the A's, like their field manager and their general manager. Will obviously discuss both aspects. Let me begin with the David Forst article here first, and how the A's, quite honestly, are having a hard time landing free agents of a multi-year variety. A's general manager David Forst, and I'm just reacting here from the piece I wrote, has been with the A's almost 24 years. But suddenly the handcuffs on his ability to improve the team via free agency have become even tighter. He said, quote, "We have one more year left to play in our current stadium, then 3 more years of uncertainty, and all of that affects what we can and can't do on the field," end quote. Now, to be clear, when you think about negotiations from a general manager and a player and their agent, all of it, like literally the entire conversation comes down to basically 3 things every time. The first one of them is money, obviously. The second one is term, like how long are we doing this contract for? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And the third one is roles and opportunities. A lot of times a team will say, well, we can't give you as much, but we can give you a huge opportunity to showcase yourself, and those are valuable chances to get a bigger deal here or somewhere else. Okay. So the A's have always been known for a couple things, right? Like smaller payrolls, but huge proving ground type roles and opportunities. Here, come in here, revamp your career, and then see where it goes from there. We'll give you the opportunity to really make a name for yourself for the first time or a second time or all over again. But now the contract terms that the A's can hand out are being predictably limited past 2024. Here's a quote from David Forst. "Specifically, when I talk to a free agent about a 2-year deal, the question comes up about where we're playing in the second year of the deal. That's 2025. And we don't have an answer for that yet. We feel that in all the conversations we have," he said, end quote. I also spoke to John Morosi of MLB Network for this story. Now, John has covered, player trades and transactions and all that stuff on the national level. He's seen a bunch of this in a bunch of places for multiple decades now. And John told me this, quote, "It's complicated. There's no question about that. The A's now have a number of structural disadvantages. The payroll, to begin with, has never been especially high, but you add on that complexity of the multi-year question, and it's real," end quote, he said. He went on to say, "Especially if you're a player with a family, these are real considerations. You have to give them, the players, one of 2 things. Either certainty about a role and living situation, or probably a boost on the financial piece of things. That's going to be a very difficult task for David Forst and company. Again, that's from John Morosi of MLB Network. So look, I mean, coming off 210 losses in the last 2 years, the A's obviously had their worst record last season, 112 losses in Oakland history. But despite the struggles and the limitations, like David Forst, Mark Kotsay, they're too prideful. They're here to do their job. And how could you blame them? They want to get the team back to where it should be. Mark Kotsay wants to win games as soon as possible. That's largely expected. These are competitors we're talking about here. And it's also a group of players who they have no say in where they play, where the team goes, what they do. So here's what David said about the situation and all of that. We need to get better based on where they've been. Quote, no one has had a lot of fun the last 2 years. He also explained that the A's right now, on paper, without even yet signing really a single free agent that they didn't have from last year, they cost about $43 million right now, and he expects that to begin the season, it will go up a little higher than that. Double that? No, I don't think so. Another 50% of that? I also don't know if we're talking $20 more million. Maybe 10? He expects it to go up a little higher than that. He said, quote, it's a weird time for the front office. Forst was asked, by the way, about, with all the uncertainty, do you have people on the inside that are frustrated and maybe looking to go elsewhere? He said, it's a weird time for the front office. People, as in staff members, his baseball operations staff, have not left, at least on the baseball operations side. There's always been a lot of loyalty, and that has not changed, and I'm very appreciative for that. But he also went on to say, the combination of 2 losing years and uncertainty about the future has been hard on the people who work here. All right, so that's one piece from the David Forst perspective. I also filed a piece on Mark Kotsay, who maybe you know this, maybe you don't know this, but about a month ago, he was being considered for the New York Mets manager job. He said, quote, this morning, I did go through the process and I was engaged. The A's gave me permission to go through the interview process. Ultimately, by now, the Mets hired Carlos Mendoza, but just days after Kotsay was ruled out of that decision, the A's went ahead and exercised their club option for 2025 on Mark Kotsay's contract. So before that, he was only under contract for next year. Now he's under contract for the next 2 years. He said, quote, I've been happy here. I'm an Oakland Athletic through and through. I want to see this thing forward. When he talks about through and through, Mark Kotsay, you probably know, played for the Oakland A's, had all of his kids during his playing year time in Oakland. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Pretty sure he's told me that before. But he had a big family expansion and life change, and he ties a lot of his great years to Oakland. He also became part of Bob Melvin's coaching staff in 2016 and was there the entire time until he became manager in 2022. So it's understandable why he says he's been an Oakland Athletic through and through. But here's the thing about Kotsay. Right now, he's the only person or thing under contract with the A's in 2025. What do I mean by that? Well, the A's do have team control over a lot of their younger players for a lot of years still. But as of right now, they don't have a single player holding a contract for 2025. They also don't have a contract for a home stadium yet in 2025. And so Kotsay, just going back to the interview process, you can see why he's just exploring all options. Quote, this organization, with what we're going through, the uncertainty and the future, to entertain that opportunity to go to New York for my family, for the stability, I chose to go through that process, he told me. And by the way, in the piece I add this, it's a process which kind of does 2 things for Mark Kotsay. Number one, it gives him an opportunity and an experience to learn from. Actually, he said those words, to learn from. And so you get conversations, you get questions, all that stuff outside of Oakland, which he gets a little bit more seasoned and experienced from. It's also a situation where now he's been through the interview process just one more time. Was in it when he got hired by the A's and now has been through it a second time. And so the next time something comes around, he'll have just that one more experience of a big league manager interview under his belt. You know what I'm saying? Like, if we're here next winter and something else comes along and he's interested, he'll be that much better at the interviewing process. Okay. But secondly, getting that interview with the Mets, it also kind of confirms like the individual respect that definitely exists around baseball for Mark Kotsay, despite what the A's record has been across the last 2 years. Those 210 losses we talked about, they're attached to his name, but everybody knows that's not him or his abilities or, his contributions as a manager. They understand the bigger picture situation. Here's what he said, quote, "From an industry perspective, it felt good to be part of that process. It doesn't feel good to sit here as a 50-win manager and losing manager for 2 years, but I'm definitely motivated to get back to spring training and build on what we did the last 2 months of the season." So you know what I'm saying there is when he quotes the industry perspective, he's saying it's good that like people are considering me for a job despite the situation I've been in for the last couple of years. They're not attaching that to me either. And you know what? He's excited to get back to a group that's got a bunch of young and emerging players and the Zach Geloffs and the Esteury Ruizes. I totally understand. And some pitchers that are phenomenal. Joe Boyle, Mason Miller. There's no question that he is excited about the young group that he's got together. And again, I know how people are feeling and frustrated and dejected about the entire situation. I get that. But this is a person dealing with players, and that's not what they do. They go out there and play no matter what. But the point is, he's excited about the future and their future, but a future where after 2024, which is also important to Kotsay. And, to be fair in this answer here, we're kind of approaching this from whatever happens, whether the A's are officially moving tomorrow or things are officially not happening in Las Vegas tomorrow, doesn't really matter. My question was basically, it's 2025. What would you prefer? You don't know anything about that year yet. Neither do I. Nobody does. What would you prefer? He said, "My preference is to stay in the Coliseum. I said it last year. I'll continue to talk about it. This fan base, they do come to support the players. They do come with a passion. I'd prefer to stay there." He also said, quote, "You never want to speculate because things can change. Things happen. But my preference would be to stay at the Coliseum." So there you go. 2 things I worked on, 2 things that are available to you. It's taken an effect. We obviously know how people feel about the Las Vegas developments, but now it's trickling into the actual baseball activities. And you know what? Had this all been resolved by now, maybe these 2 individuals wouldn't be where they're at in kind of struggling through some situations. But it remains incomplete. There remain some other hurdles down the line, and we'll keep paying attention to it. Thank you so much for being here. Thumbs up since you made it to the end of the video. And I'll give you one more look at Nashville, Tennessee. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel so I can definitely see you back here next time.